Now, hey, it's ArTeam member Roger Molina again. Excited to be back here. I'm sharing today what you just saw, that little flickery bit. It's called Freebird Mullet. We're gonna just slow it down and tell you and show you the steps of it in real life or in real motion. And then we'll jump back to that at the end and show things, and it'll be fun, and we should go ahead and do it. But thank you for watching, and begin. Your guide right first. That was about lip length. Let's go nose length. Perfect. Then we take the second slice of the section, which is coming from a diagonal. You pivot off of that first one now. Direct it straight up. Second half of the section. Just a tiny bit here. Everything comes to that same exact stationary guide. I'm taking the next section, which is the end of the fringe, or the last bit of the fringe. Straight up from where it lives to the center, and then you cut at your guide. At the beginning of the Freebird Mullet, do the same thing to the right side. Take a little bit of the existing that you already cut. Body position is right in front of the bridge of the nose. Go straight up. Another pivoting section, what you cut already. I like to come from the outside of the section to the middle, and then come to the opposite side of the section and go up. Should be just about there, a little bit more to go. I'm going to drop on the left side and right side. Nice. Now you take these two right and left side pieces which we've dropped out. It's a diagonal line that goes from the top of the ear to about the same point that the fringe finishes. And you can take it one by one, you can take it all in one. I like to break it down into like thirds. Take the slice that's at the front hairline first. I'm going to draw this down and forward. From where that line ends at the fringe, I go there and pivot out. I'm going to take a point cut approach on this. I like to rest. It's awkward to be out in front and then try to get your blade to fold over the top. So pivot out, then rest your blade on your ring finger. And I'm using a technique where the blade will hit the outside of this section, meaning I want the blade to fold on the outside section and make the hair go under and forward. So if I can get a little bit of the guide from the previous, then once I hit that, pivot out, and I want to make an even blend through that point. So I'm going to take just the tiniest bit off of this inside corner. And that'll have the hair's nature will all bend under. If the blade hits the outside, it has no habit in nature except for it to fall forward and under. It's when the blade comes from the other side and I come back and create flip outs. So if you want it to all kind of collapse and fold under, which is more of the trend, I think, keeping this blade on the outside, hits the outside and collapses towards the middle. I think the reason we were told to cut palm to palm was to continuously get the same influence with the blade. So if the blade's hitting one side, that means that it more likely will fold to that side. As I get the last bit, I'm on my fine tooth comb. You gotta really pivot up and out of the way. The way I'm filming this, which is very high, I have the mannequin very high. You can see how tall I am. It's about my face, right? If you're practicing at home and not trying to film it and show it, it might be better to have this head more about chest level. But for my angles and my lights, everything, this is the way I have to sort of do it. I know it might be better to show you the correct body position, but if you're standing in front and on this side, you have to have your fingers down. This is on the client's left side. My fingers are down. And then on this side, which is the client's right side, I have to have my fingers kind of going up. So when I take a section, and I'm gonna have to pivot this towards you so you can see what I mean. But when I take these diagonal sections, which you're pivoting off of the hairline essentially, and then you can see here's my guide, or a little bit of the guide from the inside of the fringe. That's how long this is, and only need one bit. And when I get out to the correct length there, then I pivot from that. Now that becomes the inside point of my guide. My finger will be my leverage. So I have the blade hitting the outside surface of this and creating it short to long. I want it to jump all the way to this length. So this mannequin had an existing haircut like most people do. When you get to that length, pivot up and out. Blade rests on my finger and I'm pointing from shorting to longing. I'm doing it visually so that there's not really big jumps. Whenever you get a big jump, like I just did right there, it will turn and sort of have a weird opinion. It's not behaving like the rest of the hair. It jumped too fast from short to long, so I got to connect those dots in a gradual or graduated perspective. I don't know if that's getting the clearest for you. I may even have to raise it up some more. As I take this next bit and direct it in, blocking everything in your view. Combing both sides of the section helps me get a good perspective. If I come from the top and fold down, and then I also combed from the underneath and came up and out. Then that gets the hair really well aligned. You can see what I need to cut, which is again coming off the inside corner of these fringes. You'll have one on both sides. And then when you drop down and pivot out, you want to create a short to long that goes gradually from short to long. Blade hits the outside of the surface. Cuts down towards the face. Final section on the left. I direct it out to that point of reference. My fingers are up in the air. I gotta make sure that I don't drop my finger angle down and cut my length off. So I want to keep hiking out. There you go, it's got the whole structure of the face frame now, which is the two sides that whip down, meet up with the length that comes from below the ridge. And that gets directed everything forward. And you create like a nice short to long existing face frame. It goes under at first, and then it has this little likelihood to kind of flipping out because of all your forward elevation. So it can be a little bit unruly. It's a mullet, or a rendition of a mullet. So it has like a lot of short and then long bits, and that's going to happen as we elevate the hair to the top too. So as we move on to the high point of the head here, you can see that I have like about a, I don't know, say a peace sign wide version of a section at the top, and then it goes to very narrow at the bottom. Because I took this all the way to that hairline, there's a good chance I'm going to end up with more of a mullet, which that's what I'm looking for. So if I wanted to prevent the mullet, just leave that portion out, or keep that down with your length. I'm going to take everything up and cut it off, finding my point of reference here as far as guide goes. So my guide in the center will be that. I'm going to drop this head down now because I'm going to move into the layering, which will be a higher perspective. And as I come back towards you, you can see the guide is coming from the center. And you want to just double check that you got a little bit from both sides, the left and the right. So it is coming from the middle, but it's a little bit from both sides that you've already cut. Then you'll take these sections out. And those will elevate straight up to that guide. Everything from the whole diamond that you're cutting, all at once, straight over the center of that said section. So I gotta get my over direction right above where the section lives. Let me turn this way. There. So all of that hair has to be directed right above where that lives. If I go too far forward or too far back, it'll change the way that rides. You want it to be right over the center of the head. Combing from the back of the section and the front of the section multiple times, getting all the grain completely caught and brought to that same spot. Did not run that on purpose. Stop at my guide, and then I'm going to pivot up to a diagonal. Take off that inside corner. Easy one-step hop. Come back toward you this way. Diagonal finger angle with a vertical elevation. So then a little bit of that will split and go to the left or to the front, and a little will go to the back. But for now, let's keep this guide out. And we'll take out this other side over the right side. And everything now going straight up to that guide from this left side. You can see the guide is on the inside of my fingers, and I'm going to pivot up to a diagonal on this side. And I'm going to take all that length off. If you want to come in and point cut, which we did not do on the other side, but if you want to come in and point cut, reach your hand back over and come from this opposite side. If you stay with just barely the tip hitting into it, you just give it a little bit of texture. The deeper you go, however, the looser that will get. I want to make sure all the hair is turning the same flow. It's not like jumping in circles. That one was, everything was turning in different directions. You want to all flow in one direction. And the thing that'll help it flow better, really, is if you take the section and not just hit it from the back or the front, but from both. So when I angle this up here, you get the right elevation. And now the scissors hitting from the back side of that section. So I gave it texture from both sides, hitting the front and the back of the section. That one will fall a little bit more gracefully, softly. That's a real word, softly. But I'm going to keep just a little bit of this at the back side of this section because it actually is the guide for the next two on that side. So in my videos, when it stays up in the air like this, it's insinuating like a stationary guide. So when this bit stays there, and this whole next section will come up to it. You can grab this section that we just released, bring it up to that, which we just cut in elevation, and now it's being over directed way further forward. And then you will see a strong line that of which you've already cut as a guide. And I'm going to draw up to it. Remember, that's my guide, and so all this hair has to go. This time I'm just going to point cut it off, hitting only from front to back. So now all this hair is going to live only behind the head. Everything from here on out gets over directed forward to this same point on this left side and right. So if I draw everything up to this area, which is the high point of the head, and the blade hits the front of the section, it will more than likely have a tendency to throw backwards, fall backwards. But unless I want the hair to tumble around and kind of like get more tumbly, at that point I can switch my scissor and hit both sides and create a little bit more of a unidirection flow. But for now I just want all this to flow backwards. So I take the length off, then I give myself a little bit more and then dig a little deeper. And now I'm going to reach back and grab this last section and pull it up. Take it to that same destination. I'll just have a little bit coming out of the top inside corner typically, which is just the hair that lives closest to that point, but make sure you still follow this same trajectory. Elevation stays the same, finger locks at the high point of the head. That's my angle. Point cut it off. First at the actual depth that everything else is writing, or the length. Then when you recomb again, this time, leave yourself more room, and you're going to dive a little deeper and punch like further down. End up still with that same diagonal elevation. We'll do the exact same thing to the opposite side now. That will be my guide. And so I take the section that is just behind it, direct it up and into the same elevation. Everything will be taken to that one point at the high point of the head. Pause there. One more better. And then you can see what needs to get cut. Point cut it, or kind of club cut it all off at one length at first. Take it back up to the same elevation. Leave a little bit more room this time. Make sure that the grain of hair is all flowing in one way. And now I'm going to go deeper point cut. So each time I'm getting the hair clubbed off at one length. That's hard for you to see, isn't it? Take it all off at one length, then give yourself a little bit deeper line, and then now go deeper with your point cut. Another inch or so down in, and each time you'll take the section that leaves behind, draw it up to the high point of the head, distribute the hair, my guide is there, club that length off, redraw it back up, maybe comb both sides because now there's so much hair in my hand, and as I bring it up now, leave myself more room so that I can deeper point cut. So each time I'm cutting what I have cut before, and then some new hair. So now that all this section is in my hand, so every time I'm point cutting through everything. It's not just the section I'm cutting it at current, it's all of it. So I have to be kind of mindful of how much I'm taking off and where I'm taking it from. As I'm pulling it up from the back, the tendency is to sometimes lean toward it so you can have more to cut. But you don't want that. You want to over direct this all the way up to the high point of the head. Then you have a realistic view of what you need to cut. Even if you do it 3-4 times, you'll get more hair each time because it's so much hair. And that's kind of the idea, is to control big sections and take your time and come back through them and point cut them away time after time again to keep lightening and lightening the load of hair that lives there. But you can't change that elevation in different ways and then cut more hair. You're looking to create a consistency. And you just continue to come back to that same high point of the head. So all that hair lives down and back correctly. So the hair just continues to get struck from the front side as it moves backwards. So now we'll go into finishing this a little bit. I know with that angle that it was hard to see, but let me bring it up to you a little bit more. All right. You can kind of see where it's going and starting to dry too. And we're gonna just put a pop on it real quick, and then I'll show you the finish of this. Maybe a little bit of it as we do it, but more so without talking in stop motion. There you go, there she is. Got nice movement in the front. It's heavy but light. You saw me do that little final push with the Invisablend. Just come through and give yourself some guide out. Cut from the middle towards the outside to give it flow. And then the layers and everything. It's called a mullet, but is it really a mullet? I don't know. It's kind of a long layer, but it ends up getting like sort of a pretty heavy action in between the stuff on the top versus the length on the bottom. Because everything from the back being drawn all the way up to this high point, it has a lot of flickery and a lot of weird motion and movement. It's a lot of travel for hair to have, so it has a lot of action. I'm gonna go and fast forward to the action setting that happened at the other video when I did Freebird Mullet the first time, and show you some of the cap with that, but for that will be the end. And thanks for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Be well, my friends. Bye.